It's a great honor to be able to have such a distinguished group of people talking about these important topics. Today's conference comes at a critical moment in international relations. The last 100 days have been at times surprising, chaotic, unprecedented, at times, frankly, shocking. We have seen many of the assumptions underlying such significant relationships as the transatlantic relationship and the North American relationship questioned, and to be perhaps undiplomatic, thrown into turmoil. What these changes force us to do as people who devote a large portion of their lives and energies to analyzing the world, suggesting frameworks for understanding it, and we hope influencing policies to make it more peaceful, just, and prosperous, is to take a very hard look at what is happening today. For both the European Union and Mexico have a lot at stake in global peace and security, and in the role that the United States, our long-time, at times complicated, but up till now, always reliable partner, adopts in the world. In today's panels, we will have a chance to discuss what this world in flux portends, and perhaps more importantly, what the European Union, Poland, and Mexico should do to strengthen their partnerships and work together to navigate this period. And I would throw out the challenge to take proactive steps to ensure that our regions can continue to thrive and prosper jointly, and that we can contribute to building a peaceful and secure world. The world has changed, and like it or not, we have to take up the challenge of building the kind of world we want, and we want our children to live in. Thank you all for coming.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me?
You need the microphone for Zoom.
This one.
Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin by extending a warm welcome to all of you, distinguished guests, speakers, and participants. I would like to offer my special appreciation to Professor Paweł Kowal, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Sejm and the Polish Government Plenipotentiary for Polish-Ukrainian Development Cooperation, for kindly accepting my invitation to today's seminar. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the representatives of the institutions and partners with whom the Embassy of Poland in Mexico has organized today's seminar. My thanks go to Dr. Jarostaw wiek-Karpowicz, Director of the Polish Institute of International Affairs, PISM, as well as to Dr. Héctor Cárdenas, President of the Mexican Council on Foreign Relations, COMEXI. And and also to Ms. Alejandra Alba de López Gómez, Director General of COMEXI. I would also like to thank Ambassador Beata Wojna and Director Xochitl Pimienta, both from the Tecnológico de Monterrey, our gracious hosts today. I'm truly grateful for the presence of Ambassador Jennifer Feller, Director General for Human Rights and Democracy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, Ambassador Francisco André of the European Union, Ambassador Tomás Hart of Czechia, and from Tec de Monterrey, Ambassador Miguel Ruiz-Cabañas and Professor Vania Ramirez. I'm also pleased that among our panelists and moderators are such esteemed COMEXI analysts as Dr. Erika Ruiz, Dr. Mauricio Meschoulam, Dr. Victor Arriaga and Dr. Amy Glover, as well as PISM analyst Dr. Aleksandra Koziot and Mr. Bartłomiej Znoj. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone familiar with Poland's geopolitical position and the challenges it faces on the eastern flank of NATO and the European Union will not be surprised that the Polish embassy in Mexico came up with the initiative to organize a seminar with a strong focus on security. This emphasis is all the more natural given that Poland currently holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union, a presidency that places security in all its dimensions at the very heart of the European agenda. Today, the European Union faces a wide range of serious and complex challenges. Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine, escalating geopolitical tensions, and hybrid threats, including disinformation campaigns and the instrumentalization of migration, all of which directly undermine European democracy and security. As one of the EU member states most directly affected by these threats, Poland brings both a sense of urgency and valuable experience to its leadership role. Now, as we passed the halfway point of Poland's EU Council presidency, we can confidently say that we are delivering on our top priority, strengthening European security and defense. We have long stressed that Europe must rise to the challenges it faces and assume greater responsibility for its own future. Today, that call is echoed across EU institutions and capitals. From the publication of the White Paper on European Defence to continued support for Ukraine and the adoption of the 16th package of sanctions against Russia. Security has become the defining theme of this presidency, not merely a political slogan, but a shared responsibility embraced across the European Union. These are challenging times not only for Poland or Europe. Mexico and other Latin American countries are also navigating a turbulent and increasingly transactional global landscape. In our first session, we will examine how Mexico and two EU member states, Poland and the Czech Republic, define their top security concerns and how they see their role in contributing to global peace and security. Both the European Union and Mexico are seeking to deepen partnership with each other, expand relations with other countries and key global actors, while protecting their own interests. This is also true with regard to the United States, a country with which both Poland and the EU as a whole and Mexico maintain deep and most significant ties. Today's seminar will also explore what the second administration of Donald Trump means for US relations with Mexico, Poland, and the European Union as a whole. Finally, in our third session, we will focus on the growing significance of the European Union's relations with Mexico and Latin America, with particular emphasis on the bilateral relationship between Poland and Mexico. Let this seminar serve not only as a platform for reflection, but also as a step forward in strengthening the ties between Poland, the European Union, Mexico, and the wider Latin America region. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful and inspiring exchange of ideas.
Mr. President, Madam Ambassador, Madam Director, it's a great honor for me, on behalf of the Polish Institute of International Affairs, to welcome you to the Polish-Mexican Expert Conference here. Just a second. Okay. Now we can hear you. Great honor and pleasure. I'm a director of of PISM, and my two colleagues, Aleksandra and Bartłomiej, join us online. So it's partly we may explain our technical problems that from Poland to Mexico is a long distance, so that's why it's a huge challenge for us technically to coordinate our issue. Definitely, I would like to express my gratitude to Madam Ambassador, who initiated this conference, this event, and PISM and COMEXI and University Monterrey. We joined this effort, and we are very happy to contribute with our expertise. I totally agree with you, Mr. President, that we are facing a very turbulent time. Probably you have in your mind the first months of US presidency and the very radical and controversial decisions and speeches, but I can tell you that we are facing in Europe, and especially in Poland, a very turbulent time since a few years, especially after the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. And since that time, we see, unfortunately, a completely change of political and security order in Europe, and probably far beyond. So that's why I'm very happy that we'll discuss this issue in the first session with both Polish and Mexican experts, how we perceive, if we have the common understanding, what does it mean the Russian invasion on Ukraine for our security order. Why in the second session, when I will be also the panelist, we'll discuss mostly the US policy under the Trump's presidency and how this policy affects already Mexico and other neighboring countries, but also Europe and Poland. So without further ado, many thanks for hosting us, for this splendid initiative, and I really enjoy, and I'm looking forward to a very fruitful discussion during two upcoming sessions. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, everybody, in the room and in Zoom? I think it's fine. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good morning in Mexico. Good afternoon in Poland. Dzień dobry, Mexico. Dobry wieczór, Polska. And that's everything I will say because my Polish is awful. On behalf of Tecnológico de Monterrey, it's a true pleasure to warmly welcome you all to our Santa Fe campus for the seminar Mexico and the European Union Navigating in the World in Flux. We are deeply, deeply honored to host this important event, and we sincerely thank the Embassy of the Republic of Poland in Mexico, the Mexican Council of Foreign Relations, and the Polish Institute of International Affairs for placing their trust in us to serve as a venue for such timely and necessary discussions. We're also pleased to convey the warmest regards from our leaderships, Edna Jaime, our National Dean of the School of Social Sciences and Government, the Doctora Gabriela Perez de Araguan, who is here, and it's our Regional Dean for Mexico City, Benito Miron, Director of Campus Santa Fe. They all send their greetings and best wishes for a productive and enriching seminar. At the time when the international landscape is undergoing profound transformation affecting peace, security, cooperation, and global trust, it becomes ever more critical to create spaces like this one, where we can engage through dialogue, share perspectives, and seek common ground. Mexico, Poland, and the European Union, and Latin America share common challenges and, more importantly, common opportunities to build more stable, prosperous, and peaceful worlds. We trust that today's sessions will be both intellectually stimulating and fruitful for all participants. We hope that conversations held here today will not only broaden our understanding, but also will inspire future cooperation between our regions and our institutions. Thank you very much for being here, and once again, welcome.
Tackling the decline of the global peace and security, and we will solve that in 1 hour only. Just imagine that right now Europe is under a cyber attack, according to authorities in Europe. And of course, we don't know who is behind this attack, but this is constantly being repeated, which means that the global order doesn't limit to what is only happening in Ukraine, but it has to do with that, and it has to do with a number of other topics. We, in the camp of peace, I'm a scholar of peace and security, in the camp of peace, are truly concerned because we have seen in the last 3 years, possibly more, but in the last 3 years, the inability of the global system to guarantee peace and security. So therefore, the answer of many scholars, many experts, and many officials tends to be a response of strength. Because I cannot have the global system guarantee my security, then I need to be strong so that I can dissuade, I can deter other actors from acting against me. And we are concerned because we are not being able, we in the camp of peace, are not being able to construct or to build an alternative discourse to that. Not yet. I haven't seen it in many fora in which I participate, including some in which many people from your countries also participate, like in the Bratislava Forum, and recently moved to Prague with Glovsek. So we had a great panel today to discuss these topics, and I basically want to do a dynamic conversation with short participations from each one so that we can interact. Let me just introduce first. We have Dr. Pavel Kowal. Pavel Kowal serves as the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Polish Sejm and of the Council for Cooperation with Ukraine. He previously held the position of Secretary of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and was a member of the European Parliament from 2009 to 2014, where he chaired the EU-Ukraine Parliamentary Cooperation Committee. He's a professor at the Polish Academy of Sciences and co-founder of the Warsaw Uprising Museum. Dr. Aleksandra Koziot is joining us online. She's an analyst of the International Security Program at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. She works on European security, focusing on EU security policy and Russian domestic and foreign policy. Her research interests also include Eastern neighborhood and EU space policy. She holds a PhD in political science, a master's degree in international relations, and a master's in Russian studies. She has taught at the Jagiellonian University and conducted an EU-funded research project on Russia's policy towards the Muslim population. Fluent in English and Russian, she also speaks German and Belarusian. Wow. Ambassador Tomás Hart. Not Spanish though. Ambassador Tomás Hart. Tomás Hart has served as the ambassador of the Czech Republic to Mexico since September 2024. A career diplomat with strong background in economic and commercial affairs, he has held leadership roles in Czech embassies across Europe, the Americas, and Eurasia, including postings in Washington, Moscow, Buenos Aires, and Brussels. He has also supported multiple EU Council presidencies and worked extensively within the Czech Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His academic background includes studies in mining, engineering, national economics, and an MBA. Ambassador Hart brings to his current post a wealth of experience in international cooperation and trade relations, fostering closer ties between the Czech Republic and Mexico. And finally, we have the honor to have Ambassador Miguel Ruiz-Cabañas, who currently serves as Director of the Sustainable Development Goals Initiative at this house, the Tecnológico de Monterrey, a distinguished member of the Mexican Foreign Service since 1979. He has held numerous senior positions, including Secretary at Mexico's Permanent Mission to the United Nations, Chief Advisor to the Undersecretary of Foreign Affairs, Minister at the Embassy of Mexico in the United States, and Director General for North America. He served as Mexico's ambassador to the Organization of American States, and later as ambassador to Japan and to Italy, as well as Mexico's permanent representative to the Rome-based international organization, FAO, from 2015 to 2018. He was Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has also served as an advisor to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. He holds a degree in International Relations from El Colegio de Mexico and a master's in Political Science from Columbia University, and he will be answering us all the questions regarding the Mexico role on all of these topics, among other areas of his expertise. So thank you all, and let me just say I am Mauricio Mechulam, and just a piece of my CV, I do have a master's degree from Tecnológico de Monterrey, so I am an exatec, and thank you very much for hosting me in this moment. So, thank you all. So why don't we start with Aleksandra, who is joining us from the other side of the world. Aleksandra, in your expertise, I know you have a lot of knowledge on these topics. How do you see the possibilities for peace and security in the current environment? And this is a general question, but it is intended to be a general question. What do you understand by peace? What is peace? And what is peace, or how is peace related to security, especially from the area of the world where you're located at right now?
Thank you so much for the invitation and the possibility to participate in a discussion with such esteemed experts. And as you mentioned, I do not speak Spanish, and this makes it even more interesting for me to be with you online and to have this conversation, to hear your point of view as well. But with my initial remarks, I think I have to reiterate at the very beginning something obvious but crucial. And this is that Europe has faced an unprecedented decline in security over the past few years. Since the Second World War, we believe that all conventional wars are no more possible on the European continent, and European integration process will bring peace to the continent. And I think that we believe that all over the world, not only in Europe, that trade and globalization are the trends to replace the old military-style dominance. Obviously, the result here in Europe has been underinvestment in our security. And then February 2022 woke us up, and January 2025 reassured us in the need of investments. As it already been mentioned, turbulent times, both militarily and politically, are still ahead of us, in Europe as well. But the good thing is that we are becoming more aware of our deficiencies. And as the EU, we have a solid basis for believing that we are capable of coping with the challenges ahead. The EU played an unprecedented role when faced Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. Let me just give 3 examples. Sending weapons and ammunition to Ukraine, that has been a red line up to 2022. EU spent on that 11 billion euros on top of 49 billion euros that have been provided by European states. Then training Ukrainian soldiers, We managed to train 70,000 of them, of which 1/3 in Poland. And last but not least, this is on top of biggest economic and humanitarian support that amounts to 75 billion euros. And those examples are just to show that, a bit surprisingly, I think, to us all, we managed to tackle the decline of security in Europe. Now the question is, how did we move from here? Because obviously a lot still needs to be done. Most importantly, this is rebuilding our European defense industry. EU hopes to mobilize as much as 800 billion euros in the coming years. And this is not only to strengthen our defenses against the Russian threat, but also to secure a peaceful future of Europe. And as we were asked to be very brief, I will leave this with this last statement for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aleksandra. And of course, what you say is very interesting and puts an initial note on what topics we need to be discussing now. Now, Ambassador Tomás Hart, I would like to get the perspective from your country. How are you looking at this? And what I'm trying to understand, and let me put it this way, is there a possible management, given the current situations, between security and a sustainable peace? And how do you understand from your country what a sustainable peace is?
Thank you. Should I?
Maybe yes.
Maybe. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone, and thanks to the Embassy of Poland and Polish Republic in general for doing this. When I came to Mexico last year, one of the first which I realized that the farther away you are from Ukraine or from Central and Eastern Europe, the less understanding, and actually the smaller need to understand things in Europe are basically occurring, because if you are over the Atlantic Ocean, obviously you don't feel such a necessity as countries like Poland or Czechia or other Central European countries do. So again, thank you for that, because I think it's worth repeating. And this is where I would like to start. It's not a war among two sparring nations. So it's not war about territory. It's not war which you could put on the same level as some, I don't know, Asian, African, other countries, fighting over the territory or mines or oil or natural gas or whatever other resources. It's from Russian perspective, it's a trial to revision the politics as we know it, and I mean international politics as we know it after World War II. One of the things, and I'm pretty sure that it's not only or was agreement not only in Europe but in other reasonable and peaceful part of the world, that you don't change borders by force. We see it not from 22. Make no mistakes, the war or the aggression that didn't start in February 22. It started in 2014. It started with Crimea. So we are not speaking about 3 years wars. We are speaking about 11 years wars or aggression. And before that, you had Georgia 2008. You had Afghanistan in the 80s and the second half of the 80s. So basically, what we are seeing the old Russian/Soviet, then back again Russian narrative that you can change reality by force, not by economic development, not by trade, not by investments, not by human development, not by peace, not by cooperation. Basically, I am bigger, so this is how it is. I am bigger and stronger, so this is how it's gonna be. So this is one. Another thing which I think it's another, because this Russian-Ukraine conflict is surrounded by many false narratives. One of the things that Russia cannot lose. Well, if you read our history, Russia hasn't been doing a lot of other things than losing throughout its history. 1905 war against Japan. They were basically beaten and they had to leave Afghanistan. So if you go the deeper you go into Russian history, the more you understand that basically what comes, the words or speeches and narratives coming from Moscow are at least 50% lies. I would dare to say even more, but basically it's all lie. When it comes to your question whether there should be or could be a lasting peace, it's not my invention. I'm not going into something to say anything new, but basically this is the question we should be all asking to only one person and one place, Vladimir Putin, and the address is Kremlin, Moscow, Russia. Because if the things don't change in Russia, and it doesn't seem they are going to change anytime soon, then the answer is no. Unfortunately, no. No matter whatever current US administration tries to do, and again, just remember what Obama tried to do, what George W. Bush tried to do, what Biden partly tried to do. So there were many, let's say, from Washington, I mean, trials and errors leading to basically nowhere. And the answer was, and the reason was always the same, because the Russian didn't play and it wasn't accepting the peaceful offers coming from the West. Those who know something about NATO can remember there was even a council, joint NATO council, cooperation council, Russia, NATO. It basically led to nowhere, not for lack of trying, but not for basically for the lack of interest. When coming more back to home to Czechia and Prague, as we see the war, somebody said if you want to have peace, prepare for the war. So this is what we are trying partly to do, basically by raising our military budget, which is no easy thing to do, because basically you can only two ways to do where to get the money, either to get into more debt or to reduce spending on somewhere else. So these are very hard and necessary political discussions which we have. Czech government took on itself the obligation to raise in several years our military spending to 3%, which doesn't sound like as much. You can have countries which are 4 or more, but for a country which a few years ago was barely making it to 1.1% of GDP, it's a lot, believe me. There is obviously, it's all surrounded by many discussions whether we should have more tanks or jet fighters. Or basically, I would leave it to politicians / military people and military experts to understand. But basically, what I understand and how this is when I'm gonna end, at least for a while. The answer is no. Basically, we should be prepared. I don't think the Russian provocation. Just last week, it leaked out that last year there were several fires on European airports and airlines during last year. Russian provocation, I think more. Putting small explosives into shipments to places like FedEx, DHL, or basically trying to, and only thanks to, let's say, nice or happy coincidence, it all started to burn while still at the airports. It didn't happen on board of a plane. So basically Russian, and this is one thing which we should remember, Russia has always been a military and expanding nature. And when I say always, I am speaking about 16th, 17th century. For 300 years, if you look statistically, Russia was expanding on average every year for a territory responsive to current Slovakia. So basically Russia historically doesn't know how to, it was said by our great president Václav Havel that the problem of Russia is that it doesn't know where it starts and where it ends. Basically it's a territory. It's a big territory with very few people, and again, just don't, Nigeria have more people. India, Bangladesh have more people. So Russia is losing its superpower. The only thing which Russia is so far being superpower are basically is nuclear bomb. Apart of that, it's not one of the biggest economies. It's the one its population is dying out. Mexico is close to Russia by population. How come a country of 140 million people cannot live without expanding and threatening its neighbors? And countries like Mexico is almost the same. More than 130 million people can live peacefully. What's the difference? And you can back and you find the answer. Kremlin history. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I'm glad I'm hearing here what we usually hear from that part of Europe, because geography matters. And Dr. Pawet, I know you understand this more than many people possibly in this room and in many other places. Geography matters, and the way you see the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and before that the invasion of Crimea and so forth, you see it in a different way than we can see it from this part of the world or even in the US. However, you also see that the proposal of Donald Trump right now is you need to stop the war. Otherwise, it will escalate. And to stop the war, we need to, for example, recognize officially the Russian sovereignty over Crimea and de facto the control of 4 regions in Ukraine. So you need to make such concessions if you want to stop the war. Do you see any alternative, a realistic alternative to this kind of approach towards creating a different type of environment? Is there any role in international institutions here? And how do we bring back to life those institutions if that is at all possible? And I will give you the microphone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's start from a very historical piece. More than 100 years ago, distinguished U.S. President Wilson made a great speech, but not this very famous from the 1980. Year before, Wilson proposed peace, but not victory, kind of instant peace to stop the First World War. And I see many connotations with the approach of Donald Trump. And President Trump and new appointed administration think in category of stopping of war, and then trying to establish kind of instant peace between Russia and Ukraine. And according to explanation made by Ambassador Hart, I would like to ask, what's the Russian goal? Let's look for the Russian goals expressed in many documents and speeches made by Putin and also Lavrov. They don't ask, in fact, about peace. They're trying to negotiate with U.S. the sovereignty of the Central European countries. It's not only about Ukraine. At the end of the day, it's also about sovereignty of my country. Putin trying to decide about religion in Ukraine. That's an official statement. He wanted to decide about constitution in Ukraine. He wanted to participate in the decision which type of American troops will stay in Central Europe, not only in Ukraine. He wanted to decide in which organization will join, for example, my country. That's the problem with Putin. That's not, very political, motivated explanation. That's that my arguments based on the real facts. The essence of the Putin's policy towards Central Europe, it's a pure revisionism. And our experience is that every time, if we accept that kind of revisionism, if you accept the forcible changing borders, that's the first step to the next war. It's not about any philosophy. It's about real experience of my nation, of our countries. There's the real historical facts about the First and especially Second World War. And what we could do in that context. Let's look for the great piece of another American intellectual. I'm reading last weekend Strategic Visions, the last book made by Professor Brzeziński. We really like Brzeziński because, in fact, Brzeziński was Paul who served to practically whole life to American administration. We could compare, by the way, Brzeziński to Wojtyła, Jean-Paul II. He also served not for Poland,
Right.
but it was important, really important for my nation and my country. And Brzeziński described in their last book, Strategic Vision, kind of 2025 effect. He propheted, in fact, the current stage of chaos and what we could do in that circumstances as Central European countries. The first one, to promote international law and multinational organizations, United Nations, but in our context, it's also important European Union and NATO. And the crucial guarantee, the vital guarantee for us is international law and participation in any tools of multinational constructions of security. Our answer is a program of our presidency in EU this year, and I would like to use opportunity to inform you that Poland today spends 4.8 GDP percent of GDP for defense, and plus more for security. In terms of numbers, Poland has the largest army in the EU and the third army of NATO. We started bolstering our system of civilian military trainings and building shelters, and we are concentrated on the defending of our eastern border as not only as a Polish border. That's the border of also of European Union and North Atlantic Pact. That's collective, so-called collective West. That's our answer for the current stage in North Atlantic relations. Plus, to be more careful on the relations with many centers, with the few centers of that new multipolar world, including also Central America. I remember my last dinner as a chair of Foreign Affairs Committee with ambassador of Mexico to Poland. He asked me to be more careful on the Central America countries and especially Mexico. And he was right. We should be more careful on the building relations with not only, the essence of that effect of 2025. It's for us also a conclusion that it's not enough to go to Washington and Brussels to discuss with politicians and to be more active in another crucial for the New World regions. That's also part of our plan. And I'm not sure that it's possible. I'm sure that it's impossible to make peace without victory by Donald Trump, who trying in my eyes follow the very old idea of President Wilson. I think that we should find a good partners to defend international law principles. We should be ready to defend our territory, that give us possibility to demand to our partners in European Union also to be more active in building of defense capacity in Poland. And finally, we should refresh our historical contacts with new centers of governing of international security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kowal. I want to bring the Latin American perspective to this discussion because in one of these Bratislava forums where I participated in 2023, I believe, there was an Austrian minister who said that, and I'm almost quoting, we have not been able to make our case to countries in the global south, such as Latin America, and they really don't grasp the importance of supporting Ukraine in this moment, and their view is more neutral. And yes, geography matters, and we are far away, and we have different security problems because we are now speaking about global peace and global security, but we need to understand that Mexico is one of the 25th less peaceful countries on earth, least peaceful countries on earth. So we do have security concerns. It's just that we are concerned with different topics in different areas. So please, Ambassador Ruiz-Cabañas, how do you bring the Mexico conversation and the Mexico role regarding international institutions and multilateralism and the renunciation to the use of force, such as we state in our principles, to this discussion? Because right now, what they say in this other part of the world is that these institutions are not working to stop someone as Putin, but not only Putin, in other areas also. The institutions have not been able to stop wars, as we are watching in front of our eyes in different areas of the world. So what does Mexico as a peaceful country regarding international relations have to say on these topics? What do you think?
Yes, Mauricio. Should I speak from this microphone? Or
no, this is the one.
Okay.
This is the only one.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here at my academic institution, Tec de Monterrey, and I'm very glad to see so many friends seated in the room, and especially I'm very glad to see Ambassador Andrés Rosenthal, who I worked with him for many, many years. Thank you for being here, Andrés, and thank you for all the teachings throughout the years. Well, your question, Mauricio, is very, very difficult to answer because I don't think, first of all, that there is one single Latin American position regarding the Ukraine conflict or regarding to international conflicts in general. I think that at least currently, in the last 5-10 years, Latin America as a region has been more divided than usual. So we have a clear divide in the Latin American region. So I will not pretend to answer your question as a Latin American perspective, but rather as a Mexican perspective. As you put it very well, Mexico sees itself as a pacifist country. We have been a pacifist country. We are a pacifist country. We are not members of any military regional or international coalition. We are not members of NATO or any other international military network that obliges us to participate in the resolution or the military operations in behalf of one side or the other side. We have been a pacifist country, and I think our geography, and you mentioned several times that geography explains many things. Yes, in the case of Mexico, it's quite clear that our geographical position prevents Mexico to be a more, active country in the military international arena. And I think this is a very good thing, that we are not pretending to be a military power in any way or any dimension. Mexico defined itself in the last century as a pacifist state with a responsible foreign policy. We decided, and this was not a one day decision, it's more a continuity throughout the years, to be a leader or at least an active participant in several areas that affect international or regional security. First of all, Mexico has been, if not the champion, one of the leaders of nuclear disarmament. We have been that since the 60s in the last century, with Ambassador Garcia Robles being the architect of the Tlatelolco Treaty for non-proliferation of nuclear arms in Latin America and the Caribbean. But we throughout those decades, Mexico committed itself all the time to promote all the initiatives related to nuclear disarmament. And so it is not surprised that Mexico was one of the leaders that drafted the International Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Arms, adopted when I was the Deputy Minister for Multilateral Affairs in 2017. But I don't want to say that it was because of me, of course not. It was because many Mexican diplomats committed throughout the years, throughout various administrations, to the same cause. And that, I think, is something that one has to realize, that how many Mexican diplomats have worked in favor of this good cause, which is nuclear disarmament. Two, after so many years, for decades, Mexico refused to participate in peacekeeping operations. That means United Nations peacekeeping mandated operations. Why? Because we, from many, many years, we decided to say, no, we are not going to participate in those operations because they may be interventionist. Finally, in 2013, 2014, that perspective changed. And Mexico is an active participant in peacekeeping operations, but only when they are United Nations Security Council mandated resolutions of the UN Security Council, not by coalitions of the willing. We never went to any operation or any military campaign led by the United States during the Cold War. We didn't participate in Korea, we did not participate in Vietnam, we did not participate in Afghanistan, in any of the US military-led military operations. 3, I think Mexico has, for many years, shown interest in promoting dialogue, preventive diplomacy in our own region. The Tlatelolco Treaty is one point, but there are other initiatives that Mexico has led in the regional or in our hemisphere related to regional cooperation. Let me give you one example. In 1996-97, Mexico proposed to the Organization of American States the first convention prohibiting or combating or against illicit arms trafficking. That was the first ever convention on an issue that is really, or has really hurt Mexico for many, many decades. And we went to the OAS and we succeeded. And I think this is another piece that shows that Mexico is not only interested in promoting nuclear disarmament, but it's also interested in preventing illicit arms trade, which really affects the life of many Mexicans. 3 or 4, I think Mexico shares the deep concern that I don't know if any, but many countries from all regional areas about the UN Security Council paralysis. It is important to say when that paralysis started. That paralysis started after the Western military coalition destroyed the Gaddafi regime in Libya. That was the last Western military operation that Russia sanctioned or accepted, Russia supported. Since 2011, Russia and China have refused to allow any other Western-led military operation against any other country. And that's really relevant when we think what happens with the United Nations Security Council. Mexico condemned at the United Nations, we were members of the Security Council at the time. Mexico condemns without any hesitation Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Mexico's considered that having been a country that has suffered 5 invasions in our existence as a sovereign country in the 19th century and 2 in the 20th century, we had to condemn. Our current foreign minister was at the time the permanent representative of Mexico to the UN, and I think he with instructions of the government of Mexico, who was clear that Mexico was condemning the Russian invasion of Poland. At the same time, we promote dialogue. Yes, we always promote dialogue. We always promote dialogue, negotiations, but we supported both resolutions in the Security Council and in the General Assembly, and we have kept that position. Whenever the issue arises in the General Assembly, Mexico has been in favor of the resolution to be proposed and adopted, condemning Russia's invasion or asking for Russia to leave Poland's territories. Ukraine's territories. I'm sorry. Sorry. How insensitive from my part. Oh, Mexico's foreign policy traditionally has relied on international organizations, activities and operations. Mexico is a true defender of multilateralism. If you may say, well, yes, we are defending ourselves. When we defend multilateralism, when we defend international law, we feel that we are defending ourselves because we are not a military power. We are not interested in more international conflicts. We want a United Nations reform, yes, and we have been very active throughout the years in how we can reform the United Nations Security Council. That reform has not happened because 3 countries, Russia, China, and the United States. let's be clear on this. That reform has not happened because the big three, not the big five, the big three have not been willing to reform the United Nations Security Council, the US, China, and Russia. Mexico's main concerns in security, as you just mentioned, Mauricio, are, well, I just mentioned two: illicit arms trafficking, organized crime, terrorism, and what we call the experts call the new threats, such as pandemics, forced migrations, climate change, forced migrations. These are the things that we're very concerned with. And we are very, very active in any international fora, in the United Nations, the World Health Organization, whichever, all the relevant organizations, we are active in promoting cooperation in these fields. Mexico, I guess, and I'm about to finish, Mexico will insist in defending the UN Charter. We believe that this is the moment to recommit to the UN Charter principles and purpose, and we will commit to a rule-based order through dialogue and negotiation. This is a personal comment, not ordered by my foreign minister. We need an international coalition of the willing, yes, to defend the United Nations Charter. It is the time to recommit to the United Nations Charter. Yes, obviously, open to reform when we are dealing with the reform of the United Nations Security Council. We don't want more permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. We don't need more permanent members with veto power. No. With 5 is enough. No more permanent members. And I think this can be, or this should be, the role played by middle powers such as Mexico. Recently, our Deputy Foreign Minister for Multilateral Affairs had a very interesting dialogue with his counterpart from Norway that visited Mexico, and I feel that this is the right way to go. Start talking with among middle powers from various geographical regions. It has not to be Latin American region only. Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia, in establishing a coalition of the willing for the United Nations reform, but before reform, support and commitment to the UN Charter. Thank you, Mauricio.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Unfortunately, I am very mindful of the time, and we need to start cutting the panel. We have only 10 more minutes. So I would just like to have a couple of questions from the audience. If anyone would like to ask, just please be mindful of the time as well and be brief. Just say your name, affiliation, and ask a direct question. Yes. Those are the microphones that don't work. I have the only one left. I'm going to take 3 participations, so you can take note and anybody can jump in. Also you, Aleksandra, please.
Dr. Armando Cruz Espino from the University of Veracruz. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. And I would like to ask you to the members of the table, what do you think about the international security in the basis of the actual relationship between the leaders of the United States, Russia, and the European Union? Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to take a couple more. Yes.
Hello, thank you. I'm Manuel Carvalho, I'm the ambassador of Portugal. Good friend of Tomás and Agnieszka on the other side, and Miguel and other. Quickly, I heard, it's a comment. I heard Tomás saying that in Europe, the further you go to the West, the less sensitive you are to this matter. I beg to dispute that. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion in Ukraine is not a war in Ukraine, it's a Russian invasion of Ukraine, let's put it that way, and to call a spade a spade. We have been completely steadfast on our support for Ukraine, for everything, from a political point of view, from a financial point of view, from a military point of view, and supporting, for instance, the Czech initiative on weapons. So you don't go further west in Europe than Portugal. So the rest is the sea. So I would like to dispute that we are much more cohesive than that comment would lead us to believing. So let me state my case. That's not true. First. Second, on Miguel's remark that you are a long way and far away. I'm as a diplomat, I've been around the world, and we have discussions on Far East. My previous posting was South Africa when the invasion happened. And I mean, in South Africa, they had some interesting views on the point and keeping on talking with their brothers and so forth. They had some hesitations about acknowledging the aggressor and the aggressed, if the word is like that, and which is the global thing about the global South. If there is some commonality in that broad area of the world, where they are much more concerned about other kinds of threats. I would submit that one, Russia has been doing special military operations. I served myself at the OSCE in the 90s. I covered the transition in all of the countries of Eastern Europe, so I know each of your countries. I've been there. And Russia was doing special military operations in the 90s in all those countries. Don't tell us that NATO was trying to besiege Ukraine. The cue for joining NATO was created by the fact that Russia was threatening and actually invading the countries around it. So, again, I'm on the far west in Europe, but we could see that. So, don't tell us it is NATO's fault. It was Russia that was invading and threatening and doing special military operations in those countries, and that created the cue. But to come to my point on Miguel's point, the world has become very small. And so what happens with Russia and Eastern Europe, you may or may not have heard that we had a massive blackout in Spain and Portugal today. Speculations abound whether it was a rare climatic phenomenon, climate change, interesting too, and you should think of it, but could be cyber, which means that nowhere is too far. So nowhere is safe, nowhere is too far away. So I'd like to dispute geography. Geography is seen according to the times and to the technology, and that has changed. So think of it, no one is too far away. The principle of the inviolability of frontiers, there's no other country in the world that I could think should pay more attention to that than this one where we're sitting. And I will not go into history. This having said, let me make these comments and remarks and congratulate for the initiative, for the Polish Embassy, and for the Tech Monterrey for the initiative. Thank you very much. Sorry for being long.
Wonderful, Ambassador. Thank you very much. Geography matters, but also the system matters. So it is important to understand that no one is out of the system. Interesting points. Any other participation so that our panelists can do a last round of participation? Okay, so let me start with Aleksandra. Please, from Poland, couple of minutes, Aleksandra, so that we can answer the questions here and also start ending this wonderful panel.
Thank you so much. If I may, I will just cherry pick a few issues that were raised during our session and during Q&A. And I wanted to start maybe with the issue of international systems, with the issue of international institutions and laws, and thinking about Russia is I think it is crucial for me, for Europeans, but also it is crucial globally to admit that Russia does not respect the international rules-based order. And just having two simple examples is, first one is that International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for several Russian officials, among them Vladimir Putin and Maria Vova-Belova, for deportation and transfer of Ukrainian children from occupied areas of Ukraine to Russia. So I think this is a case that is relevant not only on European level. And then the other issue is, and I think this very clearly shows how Russia is unwilling to cooperate when it comes to international institutions. It is willing to destroy rather than reform them, but also has no positive proposal for what the new international system might look like. And the case I wanted to present shortly now is the OSCE. Since 1970s, the OSCE, the Helsinki process, have served as a multilateral forum for dialogue. And even the turbulence of the dissolution of the Eastern Bloc, the fall of Soviet Union, even then, the OSCE continued to exist as a platform for security building measures, among other things. And what is the situation today? One state, namely Russia, has unilaterally decided to block the OSCE. The last budget was approved in 2021. I think this is enough for the example. And this can go on with other institutions, ending at the United Nations. And the last thing when it comes to geography, I think this is also very important to keep that in mind. This also was mentioned during the short Q&A. If you look at hybrid warfare of Russia, but China as well, obviously they're geographically targeted. So Russia is mostly focused on European states, on the United Kingdom of the United States, so the so-called West. And China is mostly focused on Asia, including Taiwan. But if you look what is happening now on the Baltic Sea, 11 Baltic cables were damaged in 15 months from October 2023 to January 2025. And the cables have been damaged not only by Russia, but also by China. So this is showing us as well how much difficult situation we have when it comes to international system, as those two big actors are being more aligned and more aggressive. And I think this is also the issue for us here to keep that in mind and to discuss what is happening at the local level, but what effects do we have on the global level. Thank you.
This is truly important, Aleksandra. Thank you very much for your participation. And just let me add this, because I remember hearing in one of these forums, the Indian foreign minister, basically he's the current Indian foreign minister still, he was saying in this forum that with these words, Europe believes that everything that matters in the world is the European affairs. And we really have other concerns. We understand it is a difficult situation, but if we can find cheap oil from Russia and this solves some of our needs, we will buy it, because we have other concerns, and Europe cannot be so Eurocentric as it has always been through the history. We have other concerns. This is just a different viewpoint from another part of the world, of course, a specific type of government in India. So, Ambassador, couple of minutes, please.
I will ask, start with the professor's question, if I got it right. You were asking what we think about the relations of leaders of Russia, Ukraine, and US. Well, I think we can take apart Russia and Ukraine because there is no relationship, so basically there is hate 100%, so there is nothing to speak about. But since we have a recent US administration, I think, and here is my personal opinion, nothing more, that Washington will soon find out, like I said, Obama, Biden, George W. Bush, found out that basically there is no counterpart willing to negotiate with them on equal terms. We can only be surprised that if they haven't found out yet. I will leave it to the comments. But what reasonable negotiation, in business or in diplomacy, what it tells about your partner if you are trying to negotiate about peace, and at the same time the partner is sending bombs to the capital of the nations you are talking about. Just a few weeks ago, I believe, 2 or 3. What partner is it? What you can think of partner when you speak about Easter ceasefire, when he keeps killing people? So there will, again, I will stop at that. They will found out if they haven't found yet, but they will definitely found out in Washington that there is no serious partner in Moscow. What Manuel said, I was more referring not about political landscape of Europe and reaction countries like UK or Portugal, because 100% I agree. What I was more referring about, let's say, physical presence of Ukrainian refugees in countries, because basically, the more countries, the countries which have more Ukraine refugees are countries like Poland or Czechia. So basically, I think just walking on the street or going by taxi, you have it in your eyes basically daily, which I think in countries like I don't know, Switzerland or Spain, you don't have that much. So this is what I was more saying, but obviously open to discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Unfortunately, we have 2 minutes and 2 minutes.
Please. First of all, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for your time to hear about problems of our part of Europe and for your attention to real threat, to understand real threat of my country, of Poland. Thanks a lot for the initiative to Ambassador Agnieszka Tekieli. And Mauricio, you mentioned geography matters. I would like to ask you to accept that for us it's a legal matter. It's a question of our borders. That's a purely legal matter. According to the short history of engagement of Mexico to United Nations, forged to stabilize that organization, etc. I would like to ask also Ambassador Ruiz-Cabañas. I'm not only researcher from Polish Academy of Science. Firstly, I'm a politician. I could ask you also about political issue to understand us, to support us, to be careful on the international law, also on the international forums. That's for us crucial at the moment. You confuse in fact Poland and Ukraine once. It was significant, not a problem. I would like only to use your mistake to explain for all distinguished audience, that from that point of view there is no difference. Right. If you are on the side of international law, you are on the right side, and that's my appeal to you, ladies and gentlemen, to remember that we are in the one coalition for international law. About you, Professor, about your question about new policy of Donald Trump administration, etc. I'm not sure that's a kind of alliance between Donald Trump and Putin. We should distinguish, the declarations, tweets, Facebook, social media from the real activity. And that's, I think, the crucial element of right interpretation of current policy of United States towards Central Europe. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
Again, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Well,
2 minutes,
no,
please.
Just very briefly, on the Russia, European Union, and the United States relationship. What I'm really concerned about is the changed position taken by President Trump. President Trump is willing, apparently, to make territory concessions, not from his country, but from Ukraine, no? To Russia, to appease Russia. But he has also in mind something very, very dangerous: how to obtain Greenland, how to recover Panama Canal. Also, yes, and so he's the first one expressing lack of respect to the essential principle of international relations, rejecting territorial conquest. This is Donald Trump today. With this position, I think you can explain why Putin has hardened his own position in the recent weeks, not facilitating really negotiations whatsoever, and he may trigger regional arms races, around Taiwan, when I say around Taiwan, I'm including Japan. I had the pleasure to be the ambassador to Japan for many years, so I know Japan's concerns on security. Japan, Korea, Philippines, many other countries are rethinking their own positions on security and on militarization, including nuclear weapons. You may visualize a scenario where several European countries may rethink their own position in those terms. That's really wise. Thank you. Less than 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And on that note, I really want to thank our wonderful panelists, Ambassador Tomás Hart from the Czech Republic, Dr. Pavel Kowal, Ambassador Miguel Ruiz-Cabañas, and from Poland, Aleksandra Koziot. Thank you so much for this panel. I understand that we have not solved many of our questions, but we are certainly put some topics on the table so that we can further discuss them from now and on, because these are permanent discussions we must have. Thank you.